Let's go back to the current affairs session of today. We are covering the topics from 18 to 24, that is today, 18th of June to 24. Some very important news articles. I have picked up the most essential where certain amount of deliberation is there. The first is related to the political governance polity dimension, where there was an article related to the borrowing capacity of the state, because the center has put some limitations on Kerala. So, Kerala has knocked the doors of Supreme Court asking why am I being stopped to raise funds. Okay. So, that dimension we will talk in length. Parachute GECKO, parachute gecko, it is basically about a lizard found in Mizoram, some dimensions maybe from environment perspective. Substandard drugs, there is small issue going on in Sri Lanka, where people have filed a case in Sri Lanka against the companies of India and also on Sri Lanka. We will talk about that, what is the control mechanism and all. Miyawaki is in news, as we all know. Miyawaki is basically related to again environment geography dimension, we will talk about it. Gandhi Peace Prize, recently another controversy, because Gita Press, which is known for that Bhagavad Gita printing. So, this is one institution that has given more than 42 crores of books to the world. This institution was awarded the Gandhi Peace Prize. So, the opposition is talking in a very different tone about this. Then integrated ACR, it is more related to the defense services. It is an article because an article related to theatre commands was in news. It is related to that. Now, when I was in the army, I am from the army, so I was tested only from the perspective of army, and accordingly my confidential report was written, my annual report, how I performed. Now, what they are talking is, I should not be tested only on my army knowledge, I should also be tested on my navy and air force knowledge. So, integrated confidential report, we will talk about that also at length. Right to change one's name, again this was also in news, because the Delhi High Court, Karnataka High Court, some conflicting views. Right to change name, when all an individual can change name, what is the procedure, we will talk about it that at a little length. Predator UAV, it is in news. Predator UAV is from US का Predator UAV है. We are purchasing some Predators UAVs. So, we will talk about UAVs, what, if, when, why is happening. Is it a good sign? Predator UAVs India buying. Any UAVs which India is already using, anybody can tell the names of the UAVs which India is already using? Rustam is there, Heron is there. Heron is basically an Israeli make. Rustam is our own DRDO's baby. There are some of them more, we will talk about them at length. Achha, what is the difference between a drone and a UAV? What is the difference between a drone and a UAV? What differentiates? I will make a statement, all UAVs are drones, but not all drones are UAVs. మీరే చేయగలుగుతారు సార్, UPSC కూడా చేయదు ఇట్లాంటివి. I made a statement, all UAVs are drones, but not all drones are UAVs. Range, weight, payload, बड़े बड़े वर्ड यूज कर रहे हैं यार साला, इतना टेक्निकल. हाँ, ऑपरेटेड मतलब program. He says UAVs are generally programmed for particular missions, but that end-to-end control also happens. Okay. He generally says, more closer answer, he says drone is real-time, what you call control, either through a person or through a programmed control. But UAVs are not like that. UAVs are, they are mission based. If you ask a UAV to travel to a particular distance and then set up glide path, it will go to that distance, it will take pictures or whatever you want it to do, and it will come back in that same path. Okay. So, the glide path is all fixed. So, that is the reason why they are called unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. So, we will talk about them at length. Why, what is the need to buy Predator UAVs, thoda technical baat karenge. Then direct seeding of the rice method, this has been making news for last 2 to 3 years, because now what we are doing is, we do sampling now in around 5 to 10% of the agricultural land. He will create a small nursery where in bunches the rice is cultivated. After 25, 20, 30 days of saplings come out, they go and put the right. So, that procedure is taking lot of water and that procedure is labor intensive. So now people are talking about direct seeding of the rice. Okay, a gun, basically something like a gun that inserts the seed and also the weed also, to you safeguard it from certain worms and other things. Both are injected into the earth. So it saves lot of water, and also the requirement of too much of manpower is also saved. Groundwater extraction has tilted the axis of the earth, God save us. So this is also is happening. We have, for the reason what we have done. So the earth tilt is happening, the spin of the earth axis is also getting affected, but negligible effect. It is a natural phenomenon also. It is only that our extraction of water is only fastening the process, that is all, nothing to worry as such. High net worth individuals are leaving India. As per a recent report, thousands of them have left in 2022. Close to 6,500 people have left India, high net worth individuals. So a little cause of concern. Why I am saying little cause of concern is, the number of people who are becoming high net worth individuals is more than the people who are leaving our country. So more number of people coming into the bracket of high net worth individuals than the people leaving the country. But it is a bad sign, because people of that stature, if they leave country, some production loss, economic loss, the GDP loss all will be there. We will talk about that. Global gender gap report, again India performance has improved, but still we are in the bottom, a long distance to cover. We will talk about that also. Other than this, if some news article related to the one article related to NATO plus 5 states, no? NATO plus 5, US Congress is talking about India giving the status of NATO plus 5. Which are the 5 countries? कौन बताएगा हाथ ऊपर? NATO plus 5 countries. Which are those 5 countries? NATO plus 5, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, साउथ कोरिया, एशिया में एक और दोस्त है उसका, जापान. These are the 5 NATO plus 5 countries. What is the importance of these 5 countries? US shares the most secret defense technology with them. It shares the intelligence reports with them. That is the importance of being a NATO plus 5 country. Okay. So now the US Congress means the US Parliament has recommended to include India in the NATO plus 5 status. So what does it mean? It will become NATO plus 6. It will become NATO plus 6. So now if you become NATO plus 6, what is the geopolitical implication? No, not necessary an alliance, unless and until you sign an alliance partnership, it does not mean necessary. See, alliance का एक definition है. If something happens to me, you will come to rescue, and we say I don't need you. If something happens to me, I know you are the reason. How can I call you only? Obviously, believe me, जब तक अमेरिका नहीं चाहेगा पाकिस्तान इंडिया पे हमला नहीं कर सकता, believe me, चाइना भी नहीं कर सकता. So when I know that you are the reason, why will I sign an alliance partnership with you? So that's how America is also not interested. America does not want India to sign an alliance partnership. Believe me, that's the reason why it has not been offered, and we have never accepted it also. Okay? We do not want America to involve in the affairs related to India. You remember Trump बोल रहा था, I'll mediate about Kashmir. We said thank you very much. So that's how. Understand, हमारा foreign policy का एक सिद्धांत है, bilateral talks. I don't want third party mediation. If I have problem with Sri Lanka, I'll talk to Sri Lanka. I know Sinhala, I have Tamil people, they can go and talk in Tamil, I'll resolve my issues. You don't come from America till here. So this is the stand I have strongly maintained. India does not want to get into any alliance formations, because it will not happen in near future also. Okay? Why? Because there is no threat perception in the first place. Okay? Pakistan cannot survive India for more than a week in a full-fledged conventional war scenario. Believe, it cannot survive beyond 7 days. If it fights with India beyond 7 days, Pakistan will completely collapse. If Pakistan collapses in that scenario, Saudi Arabia will come and take over the reins of Pakistan. Understand? ये जब भी होगा हिस्ट्री में, मैं रहूँ या ना रहूँ, इतिहास जरूर रहेगा, यही होगा ग्राउंड पे, ठीक है? And the money will come from somewhere else, but the ideology, just to say because it is a Muslim nation, the Saudi Arabia will find its roots in Pakistan. But again, second grade citizens in their own country, they will become. An entity will be formed that will rule Pakistan, if at all that happens. It will not happen. No. We do not want that to happen. We do not want that to happen because we do not want any superpower status country to come closer to my boundary. That's the logic. So that's the reason why we will not allow him to die. We will not make him live also. We will leave him like that. We leave him like that. Okay. चलो एक और था related to cord blood, CORD. Cord blood, umbilical cord blood, stem cell, science and tech related topic है. Please revise about that also. ठीक है. चलो let's start with the first topic. The topic reads borrowing limits of the states. Now some questions I will ask. Who decides what is the borrowing limit of a state? Finance Commission. Good answer. Finance Commission decides what is the borrowing capacity of the state. Now, what are the factors that are taken into consideration when determining the borrowing capacity of the state? GSDP, gross state domestic product. Okay. Existing outstanding loans, very, very important. Now that he has made a statement, existing outstanding loans. Now the state might take loan from the center, yes, from the center, and sovereign loans, yes or no? The state can take sovereign loan, right? I hope you are aware the state can also take sovereign loans. Now when I am making a statement, the center is controlling the power of the state to borrow. Why is it that the center has been given the power to control the capacity of the state to borrow? Why the center has been given the power? What is the logic? It is against the principles of federation. Hello. It is against the true spirit of federation. The true spirit of federation says the state should have its own independent financial dimensions. So the center should not control. If center controls, it becomes unitary. It goes more closer to centralization of the economy of the state. Now what is the idea why your central government has been given the power to control how much the state can borrow? See, Finance Commission is a central government entity. Hello. Finance Commission is a central government entity? Huh? No. Understand this. No. The reason why the central government has been given the power to control the borrowing capacity of the state is only to safeguard the interest of the creditor, because the maximum loans of the states are towards the center. The center has given maximum money to the states. You remember centrally sponsored scheme? Yeah, your centrally sponsored scheme में बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा, because the central government wants to run a scheme, whatever is the share of the state also, the center only bears in many of the cases, because it wants that scheme to be successful. Otherwise what will the state say? मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है. So that is how to support that particular scheme. The center for the time being gives that money also, but it is as a loan. So that is how over a period of time almost all the states, the loans to the center has increased tremendously. So to safeguard the interest of the creditor, where here who is the creditor? The center has also been given the power to control how much the state can borrow. Now this figure is fixed. What is the figure? Finance Commission ने क्या figure fix किया था? Finance Commission ने figure क्या fix किया था? What is the amount of, इसमें ढूंढने की कोशिश कर रहे हो क्या? ढूंढो. हाँ, नहीं मिलेगा. 3.5. अरे yes or no? And they can even go beyond 5%, 0.5% when they will carry out certain power sector reforms. Excellent. ये मेहंदी, ये समझ आने की. हाँ? What happened? By thinking, Dayakar, simple no? 3.5 to 4, only 4 when you have carried out the requisite power sector reforms. This is a special provision given by the central government. Okay? This is the crux of the article. The Kerala state government, what has happened is, Kerala state government filed a case in Supreme Court because it was restricted from raising certain amount of loan. So this fellow went to the Supreme Court and said, this is against the spirit of federation. the Supreme Court will happily turn it down or not encourage it for that matter. Okay? So, the Kerala government is going to take a move in the Supreme Court against the central government's decision to cut down the state's borrowing limit. The state would be deprived of about 20,000 crores due to the slashed borrowing limit and revenue deficit grant in 2023 and 2024. So, now what is happening? The revenue deficit grant. What is this grant? What was the revenue deficit grant? ఏంది ఎట్లా చూస్తున్నారు? నా పేరు మేజర్ SPS OBEROI. నేను ఏకమ్ ఐఎస్ అకాడమీలో అధ్యాపకుడిగా పనిచేస్తున్నాను. అప్పుడప్పుడు వస్తూ ఉంటాను. వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్? క్యా హో గయా? యు ఆర్ నాట్ ఇన్ అ మూడ్ టు రీడ్? విల్ వాచ్ ఎ మూవీ? నో? What is this? Revenue deficit grant. Who promised this to whom? The central government promised to the states. As a result of implementation of GST, if your revenue reduces beyond a particular point, I will augment your revenue in the form of a grant. In a form of a grant. Grant means you don't have to return it back to me, right? So, he says that because of this slashed, the state would be deprived of about 20,000 crores due to the slashed borrowing limit and also revenue deficit grant in 2023 and 2024. What has happened? This has also been reduced. So, 20,000 crore ka loss hoga to the state. Now, constitutional provisions, please make a note. Article 293 in the constitution deals with the borrowing by states. How the question will come in UPSC? He will frame a question. Which of the following articles of the constitution pertain to federal structure? Pertain to federal structure. So, 293 is the article of the constitution that is talking about the borrowing by the states. The executive power of a state extends to borrowing within the territory of India upon the security of the consolidated fund of the state. Please do not get confused with India. Consolidated fund of the state within such limits and to the giving of guarantees within such limits, if any, that may be so fixed. What does it mean? Within the territory of India, it can raise loans with respect to the consolidated fund of India within such limits. And where is the limit coming? This is where 293 and also your finance commission. The limits have been prescribed by the central government through the finance commission. So, depending on the consolidated fund of the state within such limits and to the giving of guarantees within such limits, again within such limits only. So, because you are giving guarantees, you cannot cross the limit within such limits, if any, as may be so fixed. So, what all are coming in the dimension related to the capacity of the borrowing? One is the consolidated fund of the state, any limits set by the government, or any guarantees that are given by the government, but even if it is guaranteed only within such limits. So, the question will come from this paragraph, it will not come from here. The question will come from this paragraph. Then what it says? Why states need center's permission while borrowing? Article 293 subsection 3 of the constitution requires the states to obtain center's consent in order to borrow in case the state is indebted to the center over a previous loan. It means if you are already having a loan with the central government, if you are wanting to take another loan, that is where you have to take the consent of the government. And almost all the governments have taken loan from the center, automatically all the states have to take the consent of the center. If the states have not taken any loan from the central government, they don't have to take the consent of the center. It means the center's consent is coterminous to the loan taken from the center. If there is no loan from the center, the consent of the state of the center is not compulsory. So, a question will come, the center's consent to borrow by a state is compulsory. The answer is no, only if it is indebted to the center over a previous loan. In practice, the center has been exercising this power in accordance with the recommendations of the Finance Commission. It means the exercising of the power is in accordance with the recommendations of the Finance Commission. Listen, what is the difference here to here? The authority is constitutional. The authority is constitutional. This fellow is fixing the percentage. That's all. Authority is constitutional, but Finance Commission is only fixing the percentage. So, the authority is constitutional authority, only how much is the limit is this fellow recommendation to the government. Now tell me, is the Finance Commission's recommendations binding on the government? No. Understand this, very important. The Finance Commission's recommendations are not binding on the government, but in the spirit of federation, generally almost all the recommendations of the Finance Commission are accepted by the center. Generally all the recommendations, no matter how so much it pinches the center, it generally accepts the what you call recommendation the government that has given. So, whatever the recommendation the Finance Commission gives, whether it was 14th, 15th, now the 16th Finance Commission is also in news. It is trying to make some headwinds. 16th Finance Commission, which is the biggest terms of reference. What is the biggest term of reference of the 15th, 16th Finance? Who is the head of the 16th Finance Commission? Chalo, jaldi, box banao. And it says that every single state is indebted to the center, and thus all of them require the center's consent in order to raise loans, in order to borrow. Say tomorrow Sikkim clears all its loan with the central government. Sikkim clears all its loans with the central government, and now Sikkim wants to raise a fresh loan from anybody XYZ. Now, does Sikkim has to take the permission of the center? No, because the permission as per 293(3) is only arising as a result of indebtedness of the state to the center. Okay? So, very important that dimension. Fixing the ceiling limit. Now, the fiscal deficit target is normally recommended by the Finance Commission and accepted or changed by the center. It means the recommendation of the Finance Commission is primarily based on the fiscal deficit of the state, is one dimension. Second, the base fiscal deficit is typically expressed. Now, understand, the fiscal deficit of Punjab, the fiscal deficit of Kerala, the fiscal deficit of West Bengal would be different. Now, what the Finance Commission says is, the base fiscal deficit it fixes. Say it fixes 2%, and anything over and above 2%, that will be the one thing that will decide how much the state can take as a loan. So, this is basically to bring in parity in the economies of the various states. Why? Because one state would be economically very strong. Now, you cannot compare Manipur's economy with Gujarat's economy, because Gujarat is a highly industrial state, the economy would be very high, and if the economic activity is very high, the chances of fiscal deficit will also be high. So, what the Finance Commission does is, it fixes a base fiscal deficit which is typically expressed as a percentage rate that is uniformly applied to all the state governments. Now, if a question statement comes, the fiscal deficit is uniformly applied to all the states, the statement is incorrect statement. If they use the word the base fiscal deficit is uniformly applied, then the statement is right. Understand, there is a big difference. The moment the base is used, irrespective of the GSDP, the gross state domestic product, it will be applied equally to all the states. This is then applied to the center's projection of each state's gross state domestic GDP for a given fiscal year to determine the absolute net borrowing ceiling for that date. Once the what you call the finance commission fixes the base fiscal deficit, based on that base fiscal deficit, what the government does, the central government will now calculate the what will be the GDP of the state. Now based on that GDP, it will determine what will be the ceiling limit on the borrowing of that particular state. Now if a statement comes, the state's GDP is also one of the factors for determining the borrowing limit of the state. Is it a true statement or false statement? It is a true statement. Understand, the questions will come from the core understanding of the issue. Okay? Then the borrowing ceiling established in this manner operates as a mild constraint on the state's fiscal deficit for that year. What does this line mean? The borrowing ceiling established in this manner operates as a mild constraint on the state's fiscal deficit for that year. Understood the statement? What it says is, the moment you fix the borrowing limit, the moment you establish the borrowing limit, the moment you fix it, how it will fund its fiscal deficit becomes a big question mark. Because how your central government funds the fiscal deficit, it also raises money. Now because you have set the borrowing limit, from where do I get the money to cover my fiscal deficit becomes a big question mark for the state. This is where the question of federation comes into play. It means how the government, the state government will fund its fiscal deficit is also controlled by the center. Okay? Understand this. What is the penultimate aim? If the fiscal deficit is more, it means the expenditure is more. Yes or no? More than the revenue. It means the center is indirectly controlling the expenditure of the state. It is not controlling the revenue, but it is definitely controlling the expenditure of the state. And these expenditures are nothing but the freebies given by the state governments. So that is where they want to control the expenditure of the state government, that does not unnecessarily give freebies with an intention of gaining political mileage. So that is the reason why it tries to control the state. Satyapriya, समझ में आया? नहीं आया? Sleepy? No? Tired? No? Okay. See, whenever you read a topic in UPSC, first understand why the topic is there. Second, understand why the topic in news. First, why and why in news. If two dimensions are clear, now any questions coming related to the borrowing of the state, you have a thorough understanding and generally you may attempt the question correctly. Now, fiscal deficit target for center. The Finance Commission recommended that the center brings down its fiscal deficit to 4% of GDP by 25-26 against 6.8% in financial year 22. But for the states, it recommended fiscal deficit at 4% of state GDP in 21-22, 3.5 in the following year and 3% for the next 3 years. What does it mean? It wants to prudently control the state's fiscal deficit than the central fiscal deficit. Okay? Now, why is it so? The state's expenditure is so high. स्टेट का एक्सपेंडिचर हाई होने का सबसे बड़ा रीजन क्या है? डोंट टॉक जेनरिक. हेल्थ इज अ स्टेट wherever maximum expenditure is involved, which is non-generative in nature, it does not generate any income, all those subjects are in the state list. That is the biggest reason why the fiscal deficits of the states are generally higher than the center. अरे समझ रहे हो बात को? So that is the reason why the expenditure of the states is high. ठीक है? Now, because of Article 293 of the Constitution, state government operates under borrowing limits and hence budget constraints approved by the union government. The normal limit for net borrowing may be fixed at 4% of state GSDP, 3.5 is the repetition, and additional borrowing of 0.5%, what Yash was saying, GSDP be allowed to the states in case they meet the criteria for the power sector reforms. So, in this next year they can cross 4.5%, next year they can be 4%, next year they could be 3.5% if they carry out the requisite power sector reform. What was that reform? DISCOM reforms. Are state DISCOMs? No. Please. Borrowing limits of the states. Hello. What is the answer? Answer. C. What is C? 5 pairs. Which is wrong? Second statement, state needs to take the concurrent center to borrow beyond this limit. He says this statement is incorrect, you say. He is saying this is incorrect statement. Okay. Fifth statement is incorrect. Center predicts the state GDP for the purpose of the limit. पढ़ा है तो था? अरे predict को अच्छा, he is fine reading the word. See, predicts is not astrological prediction. All your estimates are what? You are not going to Swamiji. अब बोलो आंसर. अच्छा, यश का सवाल यह है, दिस इज रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट, दिस व्हाट यश सेज. आई से नो. आई सेड पुट्स अ लिमिट, बट आई नेवर सेड कैन नॉट बोरो बियॉन्ड दैट. अरे समझ में आ रहा है? इफ इट हैज, से फॉर एग्जाम्पल देयर इज अ डिजास्टर in a particular state, especially hilly states, prone to disasters, states which are prone to insurgency, particular incidents happened which are of bigger magnitude. Obviously, the state is responsible for law and order. It has to spend. So, in that case, it will go to the center now. Bhaiya, I need 50,000 crores to fight this pandemic, to fight this natural disaster. So, in that case, this statement will also be a. What will be the answer then? All the above. चलो नेक्स्ट टॉपिक क्या है? एनवायरमेंट. मिजोरम्स पैराशूट गिको, GCKO, पैराशूट गिको. दिस इज दैट पैराशूट गिको. अरे आ गया पैराशूट गिको. फोटो आई हैड केप्ट हियर, मिस्ड आउट. Sorry, I had put a photo. I think it has flown away. It is known for flying, so it is flown away. Okay, that's very good. Parachute gecko, Mizoram. This is one important thing. 2-3 things. One is Mizoram. See, 2-3 things I will tell you about geckos. Gecko is basically a reptile that can fly. Now, fly does not mean नीचे से उड़ के चला जाएगा. No, from a higher platform to a lower platform, it will take a leap because of the expansion of its webs. Like a canopy, it will glide down. It is technically, it cannot fly, but it can fly down. Now, this parachute gecko is not flying. See, there are certain reptiles that can fly because of the strength of the bone, because of the reflexes of the bone. It can fly instead of in times of safeguarding their life from a prey. Because of the bone strength, it can take a leap and fly away from the predator. But in case of a parachute gecko, it is not the bone strength because of which it is able to fly. It is because of its make of the body, which has got, it will give a canopy kind of a thing, and it will glide down. Even if you see the cats, even if a cat jumps from a 5th story building, believe me, nothing will happen to the cat. Itna distance se, if I hold the cat ulta and I leave it only this distance, before it comes down it will take a turn, and it webs open up like a glide path. So that is how it will not fly, it will glide down. That is why you see videos, second floor, third floor, at times fourth floor, fifth floor also, nothing will happen, maybe one odd fracture here and there, and it will run away from there. Okay? So that is how. So the gecko is basically a newly discovered species. Now it is one of the 14 geckos known to take the air. It means it is not the only gecko that can fly. So the Mizoram's parachute gecko is not the only reptile that can fly. There are many others also. It is thought that the species evolved as a result of being separated from its closest relative so and so by the Arakan mountains. So the closest relative of this particular gecko, please make a note, G. popanensis. So this is where it is closely related to that which is found in the Arakan mountains. Okay? Now, unlike other gliding reptiles which use the bone, I told you bone to form their flying surfaces, these geckos have flaps of the skin. So the entire body outer part is like a flap. The moment it takes a leap from a higher position, the flap opens like a canopy. Okay? When the lizard leaps off a tall structure, air resistance pushes the flaps out. The air resistance pushes the flaps out to their full extent, much like a parachute, slowing the speed at which they will fall. So that is how they take the air. The skin flaps also help to break up their shape, acting as a camouflage against the predators, because they will be portrayed as a bigger structures. The moment it happens, it will help it from the predations. Yeah, please, simple, not more than 30 seconds. Not known, sir, 2 options. What is the second statement? Geckos are the reptile found on all the continents. Just because I have written all, it is incorrect statement. Vidya Sarga tactics. The answer is right. Acha, which continent they are not found? They are not found on the Antarctica. Okay? So this statement is right. Other than Antarctica, they are found everywhere. Right? Now, gecko is a rare reptile species. No. More than 2000 geckos are there. Right? The Mizoram's gecko uses its bone strength to fly. No, it uses the extension of the skin to create a flap like a structure to fly. So this is a wrong statement, this is a wrong statement, this is a wrong statement. So what is the right answer? None of the above, because this is also a wrong statement. Good. Chalo, next. What is this? Substandard drugs, very important. In Sri Lanka, we supplied drugs, certain drugs to Sri Lanka. Now, Gujarat and Chennai based firm, if I remember their origins correctly, 2 firms which supplied certain drugs to Sri Lanka, and this drug was administered as anesthesia to a patient in Sri Lanka, and it was found that that person died because of the substandard quality of the drug. So what happened is, there is an entity called Transparency International Sri Lanka. It filed a fundamental rights petition in the Sri Lanka Supreme Court, challenging the decision of the cabinet of Sri Lanka and health authorities to procure drugs from unregistered suppliers. Now, understand this dimension. Thus, there is a provision in Sri Lanka to purchase certain drugs which are life-saving drugs in an emergency situation, even from unregistered suppliers. So that is how the cabinet took a decision to procure drugs from these 2 companies which have origin in Gujarat and Chennai. So that is where the problem came. So now the petition further questioned the national drug regulators Sri Lanka's role in providing a waiver of registration to allow for the swift import of the essential drug. So, the question mark has been raised on the cabinet of Sri Lanka, on the national authorities of Sri Lanka, health authorities, and also the national drug regulator, who gave a waiver of regulation in the supply of drugs. Okay. The Supreme Court of Sri Lanka has granted leave, means SLP has been accepted, special leave petition, to proceed in the case and suspended imports from these companies. Okay. So, with this, what comes important to us is, what are these substandard drugs? These substandard medicines are pharmaceutical products that do not meet their quality standards and specifications. They do not meet. Okay. Two words are very important. The WHO defines counterfeit drugs as medicines that are deliberately and fraudulently mislabeled with respect to identity or source. Please make a note of this statement, that the WHO defines a counterfeit drug as a drug that has been either deliberately or fraudulently mislabeled with respect to its identity and its source. Which is the authority? WHO, World Health Organization. Now, one entity, the Central Drug Standard Control Organization. There is an organization called the Central Drug Standard Control Organization. Where is it? Box banao. Central Drug Standards Control Organization. It is the central drug authority for discharging functions assigned to the central government under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. A question next year I am expecting, they will give list of acts which are pre-independent in their origin. So, please make a list of all the acts which are pre-independent in their origin, and the Drugs and Cosmetics Act is also one of the pre-independent acts that is still in vogue. It works under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the National Regulatory Authority of India, National Regulatory Authority of India, NRA of India. Now, what are its functions? It is responsible for these 5 functions. Very, very important to remember is conducting of clinical trials. Central Drug Standards Control Organization, very, very important entity. Last time also, हुआ था ना एक problem, we spoke about some medicines, cough medicines, cough syrups. So, now too much of attention this entity is getting. Second important is approval given to the drugs. See, understand, pharmaceutical industry is a huge money making industry. Believe me, lot of hands are exchanged and greased for getting approvals related to drug. So, this is when the approval of drugs is also one of the responsibilities of your entity. Okay? Coordination of the activities of state, control over the quality of imported drugs in India, laying down the standards for the drugs. Based on the standard trials, based on the standard approval, and ensuring that the imported drugs also meet these standards. Okay? So, that is how interlinking function it performs. Okay? Now, you have heard about this DGCI, Drug Controller of India, Drug Controller of India, DGCI. Now, he is nothing but the head of the Department of, responsible for licenses of specified categories of drugs such as blood and blood products, IV fluids, vaccines and sera. Sera is basically serums which is injected into the blood for curing a particular disease. Sera means serums, right. Now, the DGCI, the controller of India, also set standards for the manufacture, sale, imports and distribution of drugs in India. Now, there is one important entity, the World Health Organization. It launched the Global Surveillance and Monitoring System 2013. Please make a note, very very important. 23 May it completed 10 years. The Global Surveillance and Monitoring System to encourage countries to report incidents of substandard and falsified medical products. Very very important. Okay? In a structured and systematic format to help develop a more accurate and validated assessment of the drugs. So, whenever there is an incident of drug substandardization, that incident report through this WHO can be given to that country. So, Global Surveillance and Monitoring System started in 2013. Please give me the answer. Give me the answer, Baba. There is no sir, there is no madam. Answer. 3 pairs. Correct. How many pairs are there? 3. Pahila pair kyun correct hai? Why the first statement is right? Where is not? Bani. अच्छा चलो यार ये ठीक है, साले बिल्कुल ही हाँ हाँ ये मिस हो गया एंड मणिकंठा भी मिस हो गया. दिस ट्रू, दिस ट्रू, द आंसर इज सेकेंड, 2 pairs. ठीक है, चलो मियावाकी. हाँ, व्हाट इज मियावाकी? मियावाकी అంటే ఏంటి? मियावाकी इज व्हाट? एक फोटो रखा था, वो भी है, वो भी चला गया पता नहीं. हाँ है, दिस गाइस देयर. अरे पेन भी ग्रीन आ रहा है इसकी शान में. हाँ, व्हाट इज मियावाकी? अरे पेपर में आया है ना इस साल, इट वाज देयर. हाँ, come again. Urban forestry program. Okay. What do you do in Miyawaki is my question. I know it is an urban forestry program. It is basically to alleviate the urban island heat effect. हाँ. Native plants. Okay. Not necessarily, but yes, indigenous plants are given preference. हाँ. Clustered afforestation. In a particular area only 4 to 5 plants are planted. So, over a period of time they will develop as an ecosystem. The entire area will develop as an ecosystem. The Prime Minister during his latest Mann Ki Baat episode spoke about the Miyawaki plantation, the Japanese method of creating dense urban forest in a small area. So, it is a Japanese model. What it does? The PM also cited the example of Kerala based teacher Rafi Ramnath, who used the Miyawaki technique to transform a barren land into a mini forest called Vidyavanam by planting 115 varieties of trees in a small piece of area. This method was developed in the 1970s with the basic objective to densify green cover within a small parcel of land. You know what is the biggest reason for this? It wants to absorb the dust particles in the air. That is the most important, right? Named after Japanese botanist called Akira Miyawaki. Akira Miyawaki, very important. This method involves planting 2 to 4 different types of indigenous trees within a square meter. In a square meter, how many trees? 2 to 4 trees are planted. So dense forest, that's how dense forest. In this method, the trees become self-sustaining and they grow to their full length within 3 years. Some of the common indigenous plants that are used for these forests include, please make a note, Anjan, Amala, Bel, Arjun and Gunj. Very, very important from prelims perspective. These are some of the most prominent common indigenous plants that are used in creating the ecosystem of Miyawaki. Important. ठीक है, उसमें से एक उठा के दे देगा. He will not give all, he will give one or two. So these are the most common. Now, how is it useful? See the importance. The dense green cover of indigenous trees play a key role in absorbing the dust particles of the area. This is one. Regulating the surface temperature. This is two. Options ऐसा ही आएगा. Regulating the surface temperature. Regulating the surface temperature. What is this surface temperature? Ray Champesara. Surface temperature ante enti? Temperature on the land. చదివితే ఉన్నమతి పోయిందంట. సత్య, గుడ్ మార్నింగ్. The method was developed in the 1970s with the basic. The method is named after Japanese botanist Akira. This we have covered. He is your uncle Miyawaki of India. अब बोलो. Okay. So they do not require regular maintenance like manuring and watering. This is the beauty of these particular trees. That's the reason why they are indigenous tree. They survive based on the moisture in the air. That is how they are self-sustained. That is how they are self-sustaining in their nature. Gandhi Peace Prize, Gita Press, again in news for good as well as bad reasons. The Gita Press got the Gandhi Prize. Very, very important. Gorakhpur. It is not in Delhi. It is in Gorakhpur, one of the largest publishers of the religious texts such as your Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana and also the Upanishads. And very important from the prize perspective, it was institutionalized in the year 1995 when we celebrated the 125th birth anniversary of Gandhiji. ठीक है? Now the award carries an amount of 1 crore. Just because गांधी का नाम है, फ्री का नहीं है. 1 करोड़ रुपया मिलेगा and a citation, a plaque and an exquisite handicraft or handloom item. So ये सारी चीज़ें मिलेंगे. Most importantly is your 1 crore. ये बाकी सब तो ऐसे नाम के लिए. ठीक है? 1 crore is very important. ठीक? Now, it is one of the world's largest publishers of having published 41.7 crore books. Believe me, एक book लिखने में जान चली जाती है. So these people have written, published so many books, 41.7 crore books in 14 languages, including 16 crores, only one book called Bhagavad Gita. ठीक है? It completes 100 years of its establishment in 2023. Please make a note, very important. 2023 centenary celebrations for Gita Press. The institution has never relied on advertisements in its publications for revenue generations. That's the beauty of this publication, that it did not rely on any advertisements. The Gita Press, along with its affiliated organizations, strives for the betterment of life and the well-being of all. Please make a note, ये भूल जाओगे. So it is basically striving for the betterment of all and the lives of common people. This is the aim or agenda of this institution. This second point is good. I don't want you to give the answer. I want you to Google Gita Press के अलावा any publication that got the Gandhi Peace Prize. Okay? Any other publication which got the Gandhi Peace Prize other than Gita Press. It is your homework. You take time, find out, you will find it. Integrated ACR. चलो. Now, थोड़ा लंबा आर्टिकल है, I will talk a little length, then we will go to the article one by one points. ठीक है? आज टाइम थोड़ा ज़्यादा लगेगा, but we will try to pull it off. Now, I told you, I gave you a brief intro. हाँ, any press you found? Any publication? No? No publication? No other publication? I am interested in publication. That's what the statement said, no? The first can, one more question, box one. Can a press or printing press as an institution, can it be nominated for the Nobel Prize? Yesterday, I was talking to somebody that not all the acts that are visible as noble acts need necessarily to be noble. हर वो काम जो नोबल लगे ज़रूरी नहीं है कि वो नोबल हो. क्लासिक एग्जाम्पल इसका ये है, 3 साल की उम्र में एक बच्चा डूब रहा था. A boy around 3 years old was drowning in the water. A priest was going by. The boy called for help and the priest brought that boy out of the water body. And that boy is none other than Adolf Hitler. इससे क्या समझते हो कि हर वो काम जो आपको अच्छा लगता है ज़रूरी नहीं है कि वो अच्छा हो. What some people talk from the philosophical perspective is, if something was destined to happen, it will definitely happen. वो 3 साल का बच्चा पानी में डूबना क्या, and no, the priest saved, not somebody who was just passing by. The nature sent only the priest who heard him from a distance that somebody is asking for help. And the book says, which I was reading, he could not see anybody, but he felt probably idhar se aaya because he could see some rubbles in the water. He dived and got him out. He rose to become the greatest hero of all times, Adolf Hitler. ठीक है, चलो चल ऐसा स्टोरीज बताओ तो ऐसे जाग जाते हो सब के सब. हाँ बोल सत्या, कुछ बोल रहा था. हाँ सी इंटीग्रेटेड ACRs. हाँ नहीं है, हाँ बोल. आप लोग you want to negate his. See, Ramakrishna mission has multifaceted roles. In that, what was given the Gandhi Peace Prize was basically their food program. Basically their food program that was given. ठीक है, not the mutt, not the mutt. Understand? ठीक है. हाँ, you are asking something. No? कुछ पूछ रहे थे? Okay. The next item in our discussion is integrated ACR. Now, as I told you in the brief introduction, if any officer is working for the army, he should not be tested upon his skills of the army alone. It means now a system will come into place where the army officers will get exposure to Air Force and Navy, naval officer will get exposure in the army and Air Force officer will get exposure in Navy and army. The army guy can survive anywhere, but the others may find it very difficult. This may happen, ठीक है. But now understand what is the penultimate aim. The penultimate aim is the government wants to establish something known as theater commands. This theater command has been in news for the last 3-4 years. Okay? Now listen, what happens is, in the real time scenario, the army is deployed in the LOC, the air force is nearby deployed somewhere else, the navy is deployed in the Arabian Sea. Yes or no? Now the army is working in isolation in LOC, the air force is somewhere behind in the LOC, the navy is somewhere in the Arabian Sea. There is no coordination whatsoever. Now what the government feels, and which is also an international best practice also, that the government wants to create integrated command structures. See, now understand the meaning of the word command here. The command has a very important meaning here. The command is not that command that you are trying to say, I give a command to the dog to sit, it sits. No, it is not that command. The command here is, there is something known as a unit. In the army, a unit is of strength anywhere between 800 to 1200 personnel. It is called a unit. Some people call it regiment also, but it is not a correct, it is unit. There is a brigade. Generally 3, in very few cases 4 units make a brigade, approximately 4000 troops, approximately. Then there is something known as a corps, there is something known as a division, DIVISION. Generally 2 to 3 brigades make a division. So 4 into 3, yes or no, 12K. Now after this there is something known as corps. This 2 to 3 divisions make a corps, approximately 35 to 45K strength, and 2 to 3 corps make a command. Now into 3, approximately around 1.2 to 1.3 lakh troops make a command. Now I told you this is for the army. Similarly, you will have structures in the navy also, but the strength of the navy will go down drastically. You don't need that strength in navy. Similar goes with air force also. In air force you will have squadrons and all. Don't get into the technical dimension. Battalion यही, battalion, unit, regiment, कुछ भी बोलो, ठीक? Now he is saying, I want theater commands. It means that he wants to integrate the navy, the air force and the army. So whenever any action has to happen in the LOC, I will place, if at all I feel army is important here, what I will do? I will create a theater command. I will make an army person the head of the theater command, and I will make the air force and navy report to him. If I feel in Sri Lanka navy has the upper hand, I will create a theater command, put the naval senior most officer as the in charge, put the air force and army under him. If I feel with China air force is what is more required, I will create a theater command, air force in charge, army and navy will report to him. So he is talking about creating theater commands. Now the question is, when the commands will become theater, the responsibility of officers also becomes theater. It means an army officer's exposure to navy and air force importance, an air force officer's understanding of the army and navy tactics will become important, a naval officer's understanding of the functioning of army and air force become important. So that is how, when I will write the annual confidential report, his performance of the officer, I will bring in all these details into my consideration. This is the article, everything about. Okay? Simple explanation. Read through it. There was one committee called D.B. Shekatkar committee. There is a committee called, one of the very important committees related to the army. The first actually being Subramaniam committee, The second name generally comes of D.B. Shekatkar committee. The Shekatkar committee long back spoke about integrated theatre commands and integrated ACR for officers. Understand this. Okay? Now, this committee and also the Chief of Defence Staff, you know, the CDS is an appointment who we remember this. CDS was this appointment. Earlier, this fellow is responsible for training, equipment and every other things, but no operational responsibility. The global practice of CDS is also operational command, but India does not follow this. We have not given the operational. It means the Army, the Navy and the Air Force will still independently report to the Ministry of Defence when it comes to operational reports. Anything related to operational of the army, tomorrow we are going to attack Pakistan, if army is going, the army will inform the MOD straight. And above the MOD, you have the president, because he is the supreme commander of the armed forces. There is a political entity, then there is a executive entity, right? So this is the flow of information. But when it becomes a theatre command, what will happen is, maybe one structure will come here in between, where all these people in that theatre will report to him, he in turn will report to the MOD. What have they achieved? They have achieved synergy. Understand this. See, for example, why the CDS came in between like them is, if he says, I need 1000 battle tanks, this fellow says, I need 100 submarines, this fellow says, I need 200 fighter jets. Now, what happens? This fellow is a civilian, has no idea whatsoever, including the bureaucrat, they don't know what is the importance of what. Now, what will happen is, depending on their understanding, they may give priority to this, when in reality priority was supposed to be given to this. So, there is no synergy in between them. So, what the government decided, we will have an appointment of CDS who will also take care of the equipment as an intermediary between MOD and the respective forces, so that he can better judge what is required depending on the threat perception. If you feel an attack from Pakistan is imminent, the battle tanks becomes important. If you feel the attack from the Pacific becomes important, the submarine will become important. So, based on the threat perception, who is more capable of understanding that, this appointment was basically created. And he was made, a department was created in the MOD itself, Department of Military Affairs. So, this fellow was made responsible. So, akin to that, something like that, they have decided to create a theatre command. So, all these people will be attached to those commands, and that command will report to the MOD. So, it will be an integrated projection, but this is related to operational, and this is still recommendatory in nature. अभी recommendation ही चल रहा है, acceptance नहीं है. There is a problem. The biggest problem is, if the fellow who is posted in the West Pakistan theatre, integrated theatre command, he on his own decides to take over a territory and declare that it is independent, there is nobody to question his authority. That is the biggest challenge. Understand this. If in a geographical area, if there is a attempt to military coup by the army, you can take cues of the other armed forces present there to fight that coup. But if all the three get together and decide to coup, फिर तो बल्ले बल्ले. Yes or no? So, this is the biggest threat what India feels. That is the reason why we are delaying this. That is the reason why we are delaying this. And probably we are again the only so-called purely democratic country where the military has never interfered in the political affairs of the country. So, we want to maintain that tag. If something like this happen, we may be in a fix. You remember when VK Singh was the chief, when VK Singh, one of the chiefs of the army, he was the chief, there was an allegation that he tried to carry out a coup. मेरठ से एक पूरा डिवीजन को दिल्ली मूव किया था. It was actually for some operational purpose, but it was portrayed as if he was trying to take over the government. As a result of repeated terrorist attacks and government's inaction to this terrorism related attacks. Okay? So, let us not get into that dimension, but let us see what is there. So, this dimension we have seen. Please read through it. Integrated theatre command. I will explain this line. The three services will retain their independent identities as well. इसका मतलब ये है, he will report here, he will also report here. To maintain, there is no hanky-panky in the operational dimensions. That is the logic. ठीक है? See, understand at that level, no? If the MOD says, don't talk to me, talk to the integrated commander, the battle is gone. Now, the integrated commander will become the strong fellow. So, what the MOD says, okay, you tell him, but keep me also in CC. So, I should also know what is happening. That is the logic. ठीक है? Who ante? See, no, ऐसा कुछ भी fix नहीं है. See, the CDS can be anybody, but understand this, army functions purely on seniority basis. Army functions purely on seniority basis, and the people who become chief, they are generally from ex-NDA, generally National Defence Academy, ex-NDA. Assumption, you three are ex-NDAs, you three joined the forces, he joined army, she joined navy, you joined air force, you three are batchmates, right? Now, it is still okay. The second line, those two are one course junior to you, you three are the chiefs, existing chiefs, but the government picked up Satyapriya to be made the chief of defence staff. Now, you three will say, hello, hamare se junior, sorry. So, understand this, that is the reason why the government changed a small clause. Earlier, only serving personnel were allowed to become the CDS. The government brought in a change in the clause wherein it said even a retired personnel can be elected as a chief. If retired personnel can be elected as a CDS, it means he is sitting here senior to you because he retired, because seniority se retirement hoga. So, even if I pick up a person who has retired and put him as CDS, you three will accept, but overlooking three of you, if I promote her, you will not accept this. So, you have to understand Air Force, Navy, Army, anybody can be made, but the criteria is he should be senior than the existing three chiefs, because you are placing him above them. So, that is how if a junior fellow who was supposed to report them, तुम ला के उसको इधर बिठाओगे, बोलेगा नहीं, समझ रहे? So, in bureaucracy, there is no difference between army and bureaucracy. It is all colonial legacy, same. The only thing is that I am wearing a uniform, I am using a weapon, you are not wearing a uniform, this is your weapon. That is the only difference. But the entire hierarchical structures are same. Understand, your junior made the DGP, you are sitting. It happens, believe me, and probably almost every time this only happens. You maintained a non-partisanship, somebody maintained a partisanship, that party came to power, he became the DGP. What the state government does is, they will make you also the DGP, but they will give you fire, they will give you home guard, they will give you traffic, they will give you something else to keep you happy. Okay. But believe me, the moment you got DGP, fire, traffic, home guard or anything, you know that you are sidelined. Once you know that you are sidelined, you will stop working. Simple. Logic simple. But it may be okay within a state, but cannot be okay when it comes to the safety and security of your country. So that is how hierarchy, seniority is the core of the army. ठीक है? हाँ. Definitely better than him. That's why as a young officer only, when you are progressing in the career, over a period of time my 30 ACRs would be written of my exposure to other armed forces. So that is how I will be judged whether I am fit to become the theatre commander or not. 5-7 साल problem रहेगा, but after that I will start getting exposure, no? In any case, with 5 to 10 years of exposure, I am definitely better than him. That's the logic. That's the logic. ठीक है? Just read through it. This is just information sake. Just in case अगर पूछ लिया, तो you should be aware how many commands are there and what all are there. The Indian Army and Indian Air Force have 7 commands each. Navy has 3 commands. The Army 7 commands, so and so command. Navy Western, Eastern and Southern command. ठीक है? And Army and Air Force both have 7 each commands. It means 7 lakh in the army, definitely 7 lakh in the army. So that is how your entire strength of the armed forces around 11 lakhs. Understand this? Okay? 2 existing tri-services command. Tri-services command is nothing but your integrated command only. Integrated command only. But Andaman and Nicobar command. Andaman and Nicobar command. It means Andaman mein whosoever is posted, he is posted under a common leader. Even if an army officer, I will work under a naval officer if he is the head. I will work under an air force officer if he is the head. So there is already a integrated command structure, but only at Andaman. The strategic forces command, which is responsible for your nuclear weapons, is also known to be a tri-services command, because we have already achieved nuclear triad, where we can deliver a nuclear payload by land, by air or by sea. ठीक है? Based on the principle of theatre command system, the Andaman and Nicobar command is considered to be the one of the only kinds in the country that amalgamates the army, navy and the air force. So if a question comes, we already have a theatre command operational? Yes, the answer is yes, and the answer is Andaman and Nicobar command. ठीक है? Now set up in 2001 and all that is not very important. It's okay, done. It's all self-explanatory. This is a right statement. It is a wrong statement. The line directorate report shall seal. The line directorate report, army will report to MOD directly. It will cease? No. Parallelly, he will also report. Okay. It will result in better coordination among the services? Yes. Personnel from the army, air force and navy are governed by their respective laws? Yes. Now understand this. What is the meaning of this statement? If I am under an integrated command, because the Army Act, Navy Act and Air Force Act are 3 different acts. Okay? If I am an army guy, because there is no integrated act as such, if I am an army guy, all the provisions related to Army Act 1950 will be applicable to me even if I am posted to integrated command. It means whatever discipline and all, I would be governed by my respective law. Okay? So 2 statements are correct, 2 statements are wrong. What is the answer? B. Chalo, next point. Right to change one's name. We will first see the question, then we will come to the topic. Answer, who is ready? Shobha, Bhavana says all. How many agree? Horizontal heads. Sorry, Bhavana. The answer is all. The answer is all. Other than this also, as a result of marriage, women can change their name, As a result of divorce, the name change can happen. Okay, very, very important, understand this. Believe me, this is also permitted. This is also permitted. Okay, understand this. This is also permitted. But understand, whenever there is a change of name, you will have to get it affidavit, you will have to get it notarized, it has to come in some national newspaper, and it has to be entered in the state gazette also. Then only it will become valid. These three steps please make a note: affidavit, newspaper and state gazette. ये तीनों चीज़ें होना चाहिए चेंज ऑफ नेम के लिए, ठीक है, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. क्या बेटा? गैजेट में जाना जरूरी है. दैट्स द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ कॉपी ऑफ द गैजेट. यू हैव टू गिव. यूपीएससी को जाएगा ना जब चेंज नेम, ही विल आस्क फॉर द कॉपी ऑफ द गैजेट, स्टेट गैजेट. अगर नहीं दिखा पाया तो सॉरी, देन यू विल रन फ्रॉम पिलर टू पोस्ट. ठीक है. रिसेंटली द but this right is not absolute. This is the logic. This right to change your name is not absolute. It means the state can reserve its right to allow you to change your name. ठीक है, understand. As a change of religion also the name can be changed. Understand this. As a result of change of the religion also this name can be changed. ठीक है. It is a fundamental right under Article 19, 21 and 14. ठीक है. Sorry, but understand it is not a absolute right and is subject to various reasonable restrictions. Hello, very very important. Reasonable restrictions. ठीक है. However, the restrictions imposed by the law on fundamental rights have to be fair, just and reasonable. Give the example of Puttaswamy versus Union of India. ठीक है, very important. बस इतना याद रखो. Next, predator UAVs, very very important from your exam perspective. Predator Mark MQ-9 Reaper, ये नाम है Predator MQ-9 Reaper. I'll try to just explain you. Say for example, this is a UAV. I cannot draw a UAV, I am very bad. We'll assume this is UAV. I am very bad in drawing, don't expect me to draw. Now, understand what differentiates a drone and a UAV. General drone, what we think. UAV, there is something known as a ground control station. Again, it could be a vehicle based ground control station, where there will be three set of people: one external pilot, one internal pilot and one observer. These are the three set of people who are the core of UAV: external pilot, internal pilot and observer. Internal pilot and observer may sit inside the control station. External pilot is generally outside the control center. At the time of launch or retrieving, he is outside. Other times he also can come and sit inside. Now, for example, you have set a path to this UAV which is 400 kilometers away. For efficiency, there can be another advanced ground control station also for relay purpose if the distance is too high. What generally is done in UAV operations is you set a glide path. You set a glide path and you set corrections also. If my UAV goes away from the glide path more than 100 meters or 200 meters, immediately the return button gets activated and through the predetermined route it comes back. It means the moment it shifts from its glide path more than the acceptable limit correction, the return button will get activated and the predetermined return route it will come back. The reason why it is, controlling a system which is 400 kilometers away, if there are no conditions like this, may be disastrous. Maybe any other aeroplane traveling, it could hit any object in the air, or there could be a disaster. Why? Because if a UAV is also carrying a payload which is armament, then all the more it will become a disaster. So, understand this is the where. That is the reason why the control on the UAV by the external pilot is only at the time of takeoff, only at the time of retrieval. All the other time it is under the control of internal pilot, who only controls the entire joystick. If at all it has to capture a photograph, if at all it has to strike a particular target, all this is done by the internal pilot only. And the observer's role is to sit and see whether everybody is doing their job correctly or not. Anything going wrong, सबसे पहले इसका कॉलर पकड़ा जाता है कि what were you observing if things were going wrong. So, understand this. It means that he should completely know the functioning of both. ठीक है? So, this is how the UAV का functioning happens. Now, over a period of time, the demand for UAVs has gone up. The reason why the demand for UAVs have gone up is, aircraft is a highly costly equipment, and more than the aircraft, the life of the pilot is all the more costly than the aircraft also. That is the reason why you see any war scenario, it is defined by not by the number of aircrafts, but by the number of qualified flying instructors. And in India, we have a bad history of the MiG-21's crashes, where trained pilots are dying. So, across the world, there was lot of research how to remove the pilot from the aircraft, and your purpose should be achieved. So, that is how the concept of unmanned aerial vehicle came into play, where we basically tried to save a life more than anything. Okay? Understand this. Fighter pilots always do not go to fight only. Understand this. Fighter pilots also go to carry out recce and come back. To carry out recce and come back. Recce is go take a photograph of certain places and come back. So, if that is the aim of the mission, why to send a fighter aircraft? Why to send your pilot and risk his life? Better send a UAV. And the UAVs are not that easy to detect because of the small size, because of the silence presence in the air. If the UAV is 3000 feet above your head, believe me, you will not come to know. If the same sound is there, if it is a silent area, then you will come to know that the UAV is there. But if there is so much of battle sound, you cannot recognize the presence of UAV. That's how you need to understand. ठीक है? बाकी सब चीजें मैंने आपको समझा दिए हैं. This is the MQ-9 Predator. These are all weapons. If you can see, they are weapons, and these are all big cameras, high quality thermal cameras also. High quality thermal cameras which can at times, if flown closer to the earth, can track the movement of snakes also. That is the quality, because heat signature, that is the quality of this UAVs. ठीक है? Features, please just have a look, just read through it once. It is 500 times capacity more than its predecessor MQ-1. What we are taking is MQ-9. ठीक है? And इसका C version is your Sea Guardian. This is the Army version or the Air Force version. The C version of MQ-9 is called the Sea Guardian. And see the endurance, it means once airborne, it can stay in the air for 30 hours. Believe me, it is something very great. and it can cover a height of 50,000 feet. Because we have Himalayas, we need a thing that can go very, very high. Okay? Please make a list of the countries which already own this. This can be a question. Which are the countries? NASA also has, US has, your Royal Air Force UK has, Italy has, France also has, and Spain also has. We would be the probably the first Asian country to own a MQ-9 Predator. Believe me, best in the technologies. Predator is best in the entire Afghanistan theater. MQ-9 Predator was used. You go to videos, YouTube, MQ-9 Predator strikes, the pinpoint strikes have been done. If you remember Zardari was also hit through MQ-9 Predator only. Okay? Very highly potent. Question is simple. In India, which of the following UAVs are presently operating? Heron we have purchased from Israel. Rustam is our own product. DRDO, we have not taken MQ-1. Nishant and Netra are also products of DRDO. So, the answer is C. Now, list of UAVs operated by Indian Defence Forces. Question is list of UAVs operated by Indian Defence Forces. The rice seeding, direct seeding, which I have already explained it to you, but the best point that you need to understand are seeds are directly drilled into the fields in this method. Okay? And without having to wait for rainfall and without the need for spending month on growing paddy nurseries and then planting them. Okay? Which both are require heavy manpower to do. In movies it is shown, no, 40-50 people simultaneously they will be doing. So, for this what you call direct seeding, you do not need so many people. What all I have said, just one thing, water is replaced by real chemical herbicide. Please make a note of this statement. In the direct seed of rice, the water is replaced by near chemical, what you call real chemical herbicide, okay? If you see the paddy fields in the nurseries, the water has to be stagnant, so it needs heavy amount of water. But the DSR may just one irrigation before you do, even if it dries up, no worries, you can directly pin the seed. So, water what you call requirement goes down drastically. Now, I want you to give the answer to me based on whatever I have spoken. This is a falsified statement. How about this? This is also a false statement. This again a false statement. This the right statement. What is the answer? The answer is only one pair. ठीक है? क्या ये? Groundwater extraction tilted the earth spin. Very important, because the spin of the earth, something that is responsible is determining is also the mass. If the extraction of the water happens, the mass is disturbed. So, that is how the tilt of the earth has got moved to the east because of excessive extraction of the water at some places in the world, especially West America and West Indian continent. These are the two places that has resulted in the tilting of the axis of the earth to the east, right. Now, the point that you need to understand is the tilting of the earth on a particular axis is also a natural phenomenon, because of the oceans, the flow of water also changes. So, these all results in the tilting. So, it is also a natural, but human activity, so man-made activity is only fastening this process. Now, as a result of this, because of the variations in the climate over a long period of time in a geological time scale, the change in the climate can also happen. So, that is the reason why we are little worried, but you need to understand one thing is, because it is tilting to the east, the day time may increase by few milliseconds. That is all. This is what you need to understand. How and why, too much into scientific, don't need to know, but because of its tilt towards the east, the world may witness increased daytime by few milliseconds, and it will lead to a change in the climate in the geological time scale. It will be spread into hundreds and billions of years, but yes, it will have an effect on the climate. The effect will not be drastic effect, but yes, if the statement is purely it will have an effect on the climate, yes, the statement is correct. Okay. Nearly 80 centimeters to the east, that is what the study. The humans have caused marked tilts in the earth's axis by pumping water out of the ground and moving it elsewhere. See, water is indestructible in nature. जो पानी का बॉटल आता है ना, उस पर डेट आता है, यूज बिफोर. It is not the expiry of water, it is the expiry of the water bottle, not the water, believe me. That is the reason why if it is bottled water, means glass, and the cap is also not plastic, there is no end time to water. You cannot destroy water, that is the beauty of water. And it is said that the amount of water in the mother nature is fixed. Amount of water in the mother nature is fixed. You cannot create water, you cannot create soil. Understand this. Everything that you see around you is a result of the combination of water and soil. And these two elements, so that is what, no, there is a saying, your what you call, your spiritual guru, forgetting his name, Sadhguru. There was a saying, no, save soil. So why he is trying to talk about saving soil? There, doctors go to the God. You created this, I created this. You created humans, I also created humans. You did everything, I did everything. So where did you did this from? He said soil. Then the God says, go create your soil first. You cannot create soil. That is the beauty of soil. Neither you can create nor you can destroy. You can use it for whatever use you want to use. The water also has the same properties. And water is one substance, it absorbs the surrounding energy. If you keep the water still, very good to drink. If the water is not still and you have drunk it, gone. We have this habit, no? You catch it from a purifier and instantly drink. Thank God you told this to us. That is the reason why your old people, what they do? The water container was considered to be the purest utensil in the kitchen, kept so neatly and put lot of sandalwood and turmeric around it, so that the water settles down by the night in a proper container, not in the steel container that we take or any other container. It is basically used to be a copper container, because the properties of the copper will get into water if it is kept for a period of time, then we drink it in the morning. So that is the reason why these dimensions are important. So values very important. So we have become plastic bottles. Chalne do, koi baat nahi. As such we are using along with wine or whiskey, so it's now the question is, the water circulated across the planet determines how the mass is distributed. Please underline this statement and write, the water circulated across the planet determines the mass also, largely. Okay? Scientists had predicted that between 93 and 2010, people pumped 2150 gigatons of groundwater. That is the reason why the planet's geographic north and south poles are where its axis intersects the surface. However, they are not fixed, as we know. The axes are not fixed, they keep moving. The axis and hence the poles fluctuate due to variations in the Earth's mass distribution. So, the flow of water across the continents also does it. Okay? Now, but the new research pitched the redistribution of the groundwater as the primary culprit for the drift. He says that poles drift was only caused by natural forces in the past, by the natural forces like the ocean currents and the convection of the heated rock deep beneath the earth. Very, very important statement. Convection of the heated rock deep within the earth was why the drift happened. What is this convection of heated rock? Convection का मतलब क्या है? Energy. What will happen if there is convection of heated rock and beneath the earth? Water? Melting of? बॉक्स बनाओ, तुम साला एनसीईआरटी पढ़ते हो नहीं. देखो, द कन्वेक्शन, हाउ द कन्वेक्शन ऑफ हीटेड रॉक beneath the earth, how the convection of heated rock beneath the earth is affecting the axis at the poles. What is happening because of the convection of the heating rock, I want to know. When I made a statement, the water circulated across the planet determines how mass is distributed, and again I am making a statement, the convection of the heated rock deep beneath the earth also caused the natural forces for the drifting of the poles. ठीक है, find an answer to this, important. See, earlier this was in this direction, now it tilted towards the pole tilted towards the right, 80 centimeters towards the east. ठीक है. Now underline this statement. Redistributing water from the mid latitude significantly influences the polar drift, and luckily or unluckily both America and India both are in the mid latitudes. Therefore, the location of redistribution determines the polar drift. During the study period, most redistribution occurred in western Northern America and northwestern India, both located in the mid latitudes. ठीक है, very very important. Statement को अच्छे से पढ़ो. The Earth's change to its axis onto the right has not large enough that it would affect the daily life. It is not large enough, so the daily life will not be affected. But in the geological time scale, it is a phenomenon that has to be taken into consideration. Okay? It could change the length of the day we experience, but only by milliseconds. Okay? Now, इतना टाइम नहीं, फटाफट फटाफट. 5 pace, excellent, good. Only the last is wrong, rest everything is the reiteration of points that we have spoken. ठीक है, गुड. ये सब याद नहीं रहेगा, लेकिन रिवाइज करते रहना है. ठीक है. हाई नेटवर्थ इंडिविजुअल्स, हु आर दिस हाई नेटवर्थ इंडिविजुअल्स? हाँ, हु आर दिस हाई नेटवर्थ इंडिविजुअल्स? Where a class of individual who has an investable surplus of more than 5. See, what do you understand by this word investable surplus? तुम्हारा इकोनॉमी कितना स्ट्रांग है समझते हैं. हाँ, इन्वेस्टेबल सरप्लस. आई नीड द टेक्निकल वर्ड. हाँ, कौन बोला? गुड. लिक्विड एसेट्स. Liquid. If you have a bungalow which is 100 crores, I will not take it as high net worth, because by the time you sell it, get that money, time delay will happen. So investable surplus means liquid asset. UPSC ये words के साथ खेल लेगा तुम्हारे साथ, ठीक है? So you should be aware of this. Such investors are categorized as retail. Very very important word is retail, as they are measured by their net worth in the financial industry or the market. The word retail is very important. Exam में retail ही पूछेगा. High net worth individuals, investors whose own liquid assets value between 5 lakhs and 5 crores. Very high 5 crores and 25 crores. Ultra high is Pawan, more than 25 crores in liquid assets, not assets, liquid assets. More than 25 crores is ultra high net worth individuals. Very high is 5 crores to 25, and other high net worth 5 lakhs to, ठीक है, 5 crores, ठीक है. Now in 2023 India will be the second biggest loser of millionaires after China, who will lose 13,500 high net worth individuals. Lose matlab people will leave that country. In 2022, India lost around 7,500 high net worth individuals, the third highest after China and war-wrecked Russia. Between 13 and 22, India lost 48,500 high net worth individuals. अगर इसका एवरेज भी 5 करोड़ में रख लूं तो कितने करोड़ चले गए, ठीक है. नाउ these outflows are not particularly concerning, as India produces far more new millionaires than it loses to migration. So घबराने की बात नहीं है, हम और अमीर बना रहे हैं, ठीक है. गरीब को गरीब बना रहे हैं, अमीर को अमीर बना रहे हैं, ठीक है. $7,500 लॉस्ट 2023 और जाएंगे, ठीक है. जाने दो, कोई दिक्कत. अब बताओ आंसर. Outflow, no, 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 yes. What is the answer? तो 2 कौन बोला रे? What you felt right? फर्स्ट वाला आत्मनिर्भर. मैं अभी बताया ना, we are expected to लूज. यहां पे क्यों नहीं लूज हुआ? कोविड था, कोई आने नहीं दिया, इसलिए लूज नहीं हुआ. यहीं बैठे रहे चुपचाप, ठीक है. दैट्स हाउ लूज नहीं हुआ, ठीक है. हाँ, जेंडर गैप इंडेक्स, probably the last article of the day. World Economic Forum released its annual gender. Why is gender gap index report important? Why is the report important? Gender gap index. Do you think we are really bothered about it? What is your women participation in the parliament today? 15.1%. It is called opportunity cost in economy. It is called opportunity cost in economy. If you educate, if you empower, if you allow them to work, it will create employment avenues, wealth avenues for you. So, more than social, it is economic. We want all of them to become IAS officers. Yes or no? Okay. Now, please underline, there are 4 key dimensions to this: economic participation and opportunity, education attainment, health and political empowerment. Out of this, in some dimensions we are good, in some dimensions we are very bad, and in that very bad, political empowerment is one big area of concern to India, where parity is not coming, because only around 15.1% of the women are in the parliament. So, that is how, though it is the best figure, this started in 2006. So, 2006 though it is the best figure, but it is not in parity with the other countries. Okay? So, this is how it is important: economic participation and opportunity, education attainment, health and survival, and lastly is the political empowerment. Okay? It is the longest standing index tracking the progress of numerous countries' efforts toward closing these gaps over the time since its inception in 2006. The goal of the report is to offer a consistent annual metric for the assessment of progress over time. The index and the analysis focus on benchmarking parity. It means comparing the countries between benchmarking on all the 4 indicators between women and men across countries and regions also. Very important, not only countries, regions also. That is why you see there is a regional ranking also. Though Finland is what you call 3rd, because these 2 are also in the same region. In the region also Finland is 3rd. Norway is 2nd, in the region also it is 2nd. Though New Zealand overall is 4th, in the region where New Zealand is, it is the 1st. Understand this. Okay? And Sweden is 4th in the region, because 1, 2, 3 and 4th. Understand this. So, region also is very important, and this is the gender gap score. The more closer to 1, they are perfect parity. So, there is no country which has got a perfect parity. Iceland has a parity of 0.912. Okay? We are much more below, but understand, India's ranking was 127 out of 146, but this is also an improvement of 8 places. It means we were 135 earlier, now we are 127. Okay? India had closed 64.3% of the overall gender gap. 64.3 means 0.643. Okay? No. However, it underlined that India had reached only 36.7 parity on economic participation and opportunity. It means we are lagging behind. In India, while there has been an uptick in parity in wages and income, the share of women in senior positions and technical roles had dropped slightly. It means we are not giving more senior positions and more technical positions to the women. So, there has been a fall on this dimension of our performance. Okay? Important from the examination perspective. Please see. Last question of the day. This is right? Right? Yes. Kaun bola no? Kaun bola no? Okay. Second? Yes. One of the lowest. अरे 146 में साला 127 पोजीशन है, अब क्या लोएस्ट है इससे? शर्म की बात है. हाँ, how many? All of the above. Chalo, with this we come to the end of today's discussions.